Have you ever wondered why the Romans, those powerful warriors and builders of huge empire, never wore pants? Yeah, you heard that right. No pants. Not even once. While pants are everywhere today, Romans stuck to something very different, and there's a cool reason behind it that might surprise you. So, if you want to find out why the Romans didn't wear pants, stick with me till the end of this video, because this story is more interesting than you think. Before we answer why the Romans didn't wear pants, let's make sure we're clear on what pants are. Pants are garments that cover both legs separately, usually from the waist to the ankles or knees. They can be tight or loose, but always cover each leg individually. Today, pants are everywhere because they're practical for many activities and climates. But in ancient Rome, pants weren't part of their clothing tradition. Instead, Romans wore tunics. A tunic was a simple, loose-fitting garment similar to a long shirt or dress, often reaching knees or below. Both men and women wore tunics made from wool or linen. Togas. The toga was a large, semicircular piece of cloth, draped around the body in a specific way. It was made mostly of wool and was worn only by Roman male citizens. The toga was a powerful symbol of citizenship and Roman identity. So why stick to tunics and togas? Why avoid pants entirely? 1. Climate. Why Rome's weather-made pants uncomfortable? Rome and the Mediterranean region have a warm, sunny climate. Summers are hot and dry. Temperatures regularly reached into the 90s Fahrenheit, 30 degrees Celsius and above. In this heat, wearing tight or thick pants would be uncomfortable, even unbearable. Tunics and togas are loose and breathable, allowing air to circulate and helping keep the wearer cool. Pants, especially the thick leather or wool pants worn by northern tribes, would trap heat and sweat. Imagine wearing thick pants while walking under the hot Roman sun or during battle. No wonder the Romans didn't want to wear them. Comfort and practicality mattered a lot. Climate-shaped clothing. In every ancient culture, in cold northern Europe, pants were necessary for warmth. But in Rome's heat, loose clothing was better. 2. Culture and identity. Clothing as a sign of who you are. Romans weren't just about practicality. They were very proud of their culture and traditions. The toga was a symbol of Roman citizenship. Only free Roman men were allowed to wear it. It was a sign of law, order, and civilization. Wearing a toga showed you belonged to Roman society and followed its customs. Pants, on the other hand, were mostly worn by barbarian tribes living outside the Roman borders in colder northern lands. To Romans, these pants wearers were foreigners and often enemies. Refusing to wear pants was a way to visually separate Romans from outsiders. It was a cultural boundary. In fact, wearing pants could even be seen as disrespectful to Roman traditions. 3. Social status and clothing laws. Roman society was highly structured. Clothes reflected your status, role, and wealth. Togas, worn by free Roman men, and especially the upper class. Tunics, worn by soldiers, workers, and common citizens. Simple garments, worn by slaves and the poor. The toga wasn't just clothing, it was a social badge. Different types of togas represented different social or political ranks. Pants weren't part of the system at all. Wearing them could mark you as a foreigner or someone of lower status. Roman laws sometimes even regulated what people could wear based on their class. 4. Military practicality. Why soldiers didn't wear pants. The Roman army was famous for its discipline and effectiveness. Soldiers needed clothing that allowed freedom of movement, endurance, and comfort during long marches and battles. Roman soldiers wore short tunics that were easy to move in and helped keep them cool. Pants would have restricted movement and made fighting and marching harder. Also, soldiers often marched on rough, dusty roads. Tunics were easier to clean and maintain. 5. Origins of pants. Where'd they come from? Pants existed in the ancient world, but were mostly worn by people from colder northern areas. Germanic tribes, Celtic warriors, Scythians, and Persians wore pants made from leather or wool for warmth. When Romans fought or traded with these peoples, they saw pants as foreign clothing. Pants were linked to barbarians, outsiders, and cold places. Romans were proud of their clothing and didn't want to adopt foreign styles. 6. Roman clothing in daily life. Romans had a very social life. Public baths, markets, theaters, and political gatherings. Clothing had to fit this lifestyle. Tunics were easy to remove for bathing. Togas were worn during public events and legal matters. Pants would not fit this way of life. 7. The story of Emperor Nero and pants. An interesting story comes from Emperor Nero, who ruled from 54 to 68 AD. Nero admired some northern tribes and supposedly tried wearing pants to imitate them. This caused a scandal. Romans thought it was strange and un-Roman. Nero quickly stopped wearing pants. This story shows how strong cultural clothing rules were in Rome. 8. Clothing in Roman art and literature. Roman statues, paintings, and mosaics almost never show pants. Writers like Tacitus and Pliny the Elder mentioned barbarians wearing pants to emphasize their foreignness. 9. After the fall of Rome, pants become popular in Europe. After Rome fell in 476 AD, Europe went through the early Middle Ages when the climate cooled. People needed warmer clothes. Pants and leggings became common. By the Middle Ages, pants were popular for riding horses and working outdoors. 10. Materials and production. Why pants were less practical. Roman clothes were mostly made from wool and linen. Wool was warm but could itch. Linen was light and cool. Pants required more fabric and sewing skill. Tunics and togas were easier and cheaper to make. 11. Women in clothing in Rome. Roman women wore stolas and tunics. Pants were never part of women's clothing either. Women's clothing also followed strict social rules. 12. Greek influence on Roman clothing. Romans were influenced by Greek fashion, which also did include pants. Greek men wore chitons and himetions, similar to Roman tunics and togas. This influence helped shape Roman dress. 13. Clothing and politics in Rome. Clothing could show political power. Some politicians wore special togas to show their rank. Refusing pants was part of maintaining Roman values. 14. Fun facts and surprises. Romans sometimes wore leggings in very cold provinces, but these were exceptions. Soldiers on the empire's edges might adapt clothing from locals, but didn't bring pants into the city. The idea of pants being barbarian lasted for centuries in Europe. 15. What pants symbolize today? Today, pants are everywhere and represent freedom, practicality, and fashion. But understanding their history helps us see how clothing shapes identity and culture. Clothing in ancient Rome was never just about covering the body or staying comfortable. It was deeply tied to who you were and how society saw you. Romans used clothes to show their place in the world, their respect for tradition, and their political loyalties. Every fold of a toga or the length of a tunic sent a message. For example, the toga praetexta was a toga with a purple border worn by magistrates and free boys before coming of age. The purple color was rare and expensive, showing power and prestige. Wearing this toga signaled authority and connection to Rome's ruling class. In contrast, wearing anything outside these accepted styles, like pants, could be interpreted as rejecting these values. Pants weren't just different clothes. They symbolized foreignness, rebellion, and even disrespect. Romans believed their clothing marked the difference between civilization and barbarism. This symbolic meaning was enforced through law and custom. Roman citizens could be punished or looked down on for dressing improperly. Clothing was a way to reinforce social order and unity within the empire. Even slaves and non-citizens had clothing rules that kept them visibly separate from free Roman men. So, pants, which were commonly worn by many non-Roman tribes, didn't fit the strict visual language Rome used to maintain control and identity. The strong social and symbolic meanings tied to clothing helped preserve Roman traditions for centuries. It wasn't just comfort or fashion. Choosing to wear or not wear pants was a statement about belonging, power, and culture. This makes the absence of pants in Rome a fascinating example of how something as simple as clothing can carry huge cultural weight and shape how people see themselves and others. So what's the big takeaway? The Romans didn't wear pants because their climate, culture, and social order all worked together to keep pants out of the picture. In a hot Mediterranean world, loose tunics and flowing togas made sense. They kept people cool, comfortable, and connected to their traditions. But more than just practical reasons, wearing pants was seen as a mark of the other, foreign tribes, barbarians, and outsiders. For Romans, Clothes were a language of identity and power. Choosing what to wear was choosing who you were. This simple fact about clothing opens a window into how deeply culture and identity shape even the smallest details of daily life. It reminds us that what we wear isn't just about style or comfort. It's about belonging, pride, and history. If you loved uncovering the surprising side of Roman life, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more history stories that challenge what you think you know. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to take you on the next fascinating journey into the past.